Is it daylight? I can't tell no more. Never had this condition before.
Good evening, team players. Welcome to the Team Leadership Show. That's TEEM, Train, Equip, Empower, and Mobilize Leadership. I'm your host, Dr. Cecilia Martin, and I know I'm grateful to be on the radio station tonight with the team who's working to make sure the live broadcast took place, even in the midst of recovering after the storm. Remember to send prayers up, folks, and aid if you can to the residents in Florida. I want to also remind you about my new book, Incarcerated, Escaping the Prison of Your Mind. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and everywhere books are sold. I'm looking forward to my conversation tonight with former NFL player Calvin John Williams. Calvin Williams and his wife, Charese, are native Baltimoreans. While at Dunbar High School, Williams landed a scholarship to attend Purdue University, where he ultimately excelled both academically and on the football field. Upon graduating, Williams was drafted to the NFL in the 5th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. And after playing 7 seasons with the Eagles, Williams played for the Baltimore Ravens, where he retired from football. After his playing days in the NFL, Calvin Williams accepted a teaching position at Lake Clifton Eastern High School, but when asked to join Stan Mitchell's staff at Morgan State University as an assistant football coach, he was compelled to join the MSU administration. Calvin always believed that continuing to work in and around Baltimore City allowed him the opportunity to give back to the community that nurtured him. And with Baltimore at heart, he and his wife started to refocus on the company they began during his playing days, Calese Inc. Now in its 27th year, Calese Inc. continues to fulfill its vision and purpose of purchasing, revitalizing, and stabilizing communities. Williams is currently at his alma mater, Purdue University, as Associate Athletic Director. He serves as sports supervisor for several intercollegiate teams and serves as sports management council representative to the Big Ten for Purdue. Calvin sits on Purdue's athletic affairs committees, also a group which reports directly to the president's office. Welcome, Calvin. Good to have you tonight.
What's up, Dr. Martin? Glad to be here. I'm a little nervous.
Don't be nervous. I see you looking good.
I'm used to doing sports shows. This is my first, I guess, talk show.
Yeah.
Sports talk shows, but this is a first for me.
Well, hey, it's good to have first.
Yes, it is. And I'm always up for a challenge. So excited to be here. I'm excited about the things you're doing. Charese keeps me updated on, what's going on with you. We just recently got your book. So I'm going through that, and it's been exciting so far. So happy for you in that regard as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I always appreciate you guys' love and support. I want to know more about the man, Calvin J. Williams. Bring us to know how you developed your love for football when you were a younger kid. I'm talking about elementary, middle school. Is that when you started loving football?
Wow. I have... Dr. Martin, can I just call you, be myself, and just call you Cece?
Of course. I tell everybody on the show they can just call me Cece, or whatever you want to call me is fine.
Well, it's interesting because I was actually growing up, I was a really good basketball player. Really? And, when I was 9 years old, my mom, we moved from the inner city to a new housing project that was borderline Baltimore City, Baltimore County. Mm-hmm. So we were removed from the city. And that's when I developed, because there were no basketball courts there. Mm-hmm. We moved in the winter and there was no basketball courts. And, the guys at that time, we just start playing football.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I developed, so at the age of 9 is kind of when I found football. And I still, played basketball, but eventually it swung. So by the time I was 11, 12, it was swing. The pendulum was swinging towards football, and then basketball kind of got left behind.
Wow, really? Do you think if you would have continued with basketball, you would have made it to the NBA?
Oh yeah, I was going to be the next Dr. J.
Oh, okay.
that was my mindset. That was my guy.
Okay.
And it just so happened, I think, I would have had a good chance. I was a good athlete. I was a good enough athlete to play both in high school. And of course, I went to Dunbar and 82, 83, 84, 85, when I was Dunbar, we were winning national championships.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a part of that team, Tyrone Bowes, Reggie Williams, Reggie Lewis, Kurt Lee, Terry and Perry Dozier. So, we were getting national recognition on the basketball front. But football at that time was my pathway. I thought was my best pathway towards, a bigger and greater opportunity.
Wow. That I would have never known that about you. That's actually pretty cool. And Calvin, now you actually put up some great numbers while you were at Purdue. And after 20 years, you still rank among Purdue career leaders with 17th place for nearly 140 receptions, 14th place for close to 2,000 receiving yards. And you are still tied for 7th place at Purdue for receiving touchdowns. Now, did you dream of any of that when you were in Baltimore playing football in high school?
I think as a young child, you always dream, you're in the room and you're going over scenarios in your head and in your mind, as a child, I always fantasized and dreamed of doing those things, never realizing that I would probably not have the opportunity. But, I just worked hard and, when opportunity came, I was there to take advantage of it and I excelled. I did the things necessary to be successful. And I've always had that type of attitude, where, you put a challenge before me, you tell me what I need to do. And I just, had that innate ability, hard work ethic from my parents, grandparents, and those around me to succeed. And I, basically just took advantage of situations, Dr. Martin. And, by the grace of God and hard work, I was able to be successful.
Okay, well, tell me about the moment you were drafted to the NFL. We always see it on TV and we imagine, it's like winning the lottery. But is it still a vivid memory to you today? I mean, because it's like, all we see on the other end is like, oh, they're going to be rich and famous.
Well, let me just be honest with you. Back in 1990, as a 5th round draft choice, you weren't going to be rich and famous.
Okay.
So it wasn't that type of party back then. Maybe if you were a 1st round or 2nd rounder, you got a big payday. But being drafted, it's still vivid in my mind because I had a chip on my shoulder. For those of you who aren't aware out there, there's a process, after you go through your senior year, then there's a combine. Mm-hmm. And I was invited to the combine and I did exceedingly well at the combine. I think the numbers I put up, I was one of the top 10 receivers, and so I thought in my mind, I was going to be a 1st or 2nd round draft choice, but it wasn't to be. I wind up, sitting and watching the draft with my family all day. And, by the evening, and back then it was 12 rounds. Right now it's only 7 rounds, but back then it was 12 rounds. So they went through the first, they went through the first 5 or 6 rounds in the first day. And by the 3rd round, I told my father, I'm just going jogging. I'm going running because I was frustrated, hadn't gotten a call. And by the time I took my jog around, the house for about 2 or 3 miles, I got back and my father said, "You landed." I said, "Where, the Giants?" He said, "No, the Eagles." So from that point on, I had found a home in the NFL, still had to make the team, but I had a destination. And like I said, going into training camp, I had a chip on my shoulder because I just felt like I didn't get the respect, even though Purdue, we weren't a good team, I still put up solid numbers, had a lot of adversity, a lot of quarterbacks. I think I went through about 7 or 8 quarterbacks during my course of my time here as a receiver at Purdue, and that's probably unheard of. And to still be successful and find a way to succeed, I thought was extraordinary in itself. Coaching changes, position coach changes, but still, kept my focus, and I got the opportunity, drafted by the Eagles. And then from day one, I just, let my talent excel and my hard work take it, lead me the way.
And you said Giants. Is that where you were hoping to go initially?
No, I just thought, there's also a process, during, after the combine where different coaches will come in, they'll talk to you, they'll work you out, they'll ask you questions. And it seemed like the Giants, were talking to me more so than other teams, so that's where I thought I'd probably land, Atlanta or New York Giants. Okay.
Tell me your biggest Purdue moment that you remember and your biggest Eagle moment. Do you still watch your old clips or,
every now and then, someone will send them to me. I get cards in the mail all the time. Every now and then someone will send a video clip. So yeah, every now and then I get a chance to see what's out there on YouTube or on different websites. But I think my biggest Purdue moment was my senior year. We played in the Big House. Yeah, that's at University of Michigan. They call it the Big House because it seats over 100,000 people. And that day, even though in a losing effort, I caught 13 passes, like 160 yards, and scored 3 touchdowns. And so that was a big moment for me in my senior year. We were going through a lot of things as a team, as a program, and to have that success against a team like Michigan at that time was real dear to me. And then as far as my Eagles, the biggest highlight that I still remember is probably a team, you say you like the Cowboys, but I heard you're a Redskins fan. My biggest day was against the Redskins.
That's kind of low. That's kind of
against the Redskins in 1994. We were down with 3 seconds to go, and I catch the game-winning touchdown. Had my biggest day as a professional: 9 catches, 181 yards, 3 touchdowns. Get AFC Player of the Week. So that's probably my biggest highlight of my professional career. But I would say this, you being a Cowboys fan,
that's right.
My rookie year at the old, the old Cowboy Stadium, the one that had the dome field, I performed the same magic. Randall Cunningham threw me a pass. The Cowboys were up with about 20 seconds left, and Randall heaves a pass over in the corner. And I catch it for the game-winning touchdown as a rookie. So I would probably say that's my second biggest moment.
You wrong for that.
On memory.
And I'm telling you, those moments always hurt in football. I mean, as fans, we get so emotional.
Oh yeah.
It's something about the game, and especially here in Texas. They say it's a religion down in Texas. It's something about I can't even explain it. Just the energy. Everybody rooting for their team. And we really take it as if, we're out on the field and, you would think they're paying us to do something. Fighting families and friends.
Yeah, it gets really serious. And I think sometimes it gets to a point where it's really overboard. And I like to keep it in perspective, and I always tell people, people, they'll ask you, didn't you hate the Cowboys and hate the Redskins and hate the Giants and hate the Cardinals? I was like, no, we actually, the guys that we played against, on the field, in between the lines, we'd smash each other. We didn't care if you were my, mother, brother, sister. When you're between the lines as an athlete, we going all at it. But outside of the lines, we still kept it, we were friends. We'd hang out together, go out in the off season and just be around each other. When we played the New York Giants, some of us, because it's only an hour and a half drive, stay up there, and if it was all right with the coach, we'd stay up there and hang out with LT and some of the guys, and that were friends with us. So it wasn't that type of relationship. And I think the fans, they live vicariously through us, but they tend to take it sometimes too far, I believe.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. And so I have two sort of seemingly silly questions, and one of them is, been fortunate to meet, celebrities or, people who are doing great things out in the world. And I don't necessarily consider myself at their level, but I experienced something that they talk about. Even I've met an astronaut, one of the few African-American astronauts, and they say how after they have done their event or their thing, and I know I've experienced this on a somewhat a different level, that it's once you are, for example, off the field, or once you were off the field, did you feel sort of low, or, everything became anticlimatic? Did you ever feel awkward, especially after a high game? You win, but there's something that you still feel a void afterwards. Maybe it's because you're putting out so much. I don't know. Have you ever felt that? That
has never been my a problem that I've had, CC, because I never got too high, and so consequently, I don't think I've ever gotten too low. I like to always keep things in perspective, and I try and listen. When I first came into the league, I tried to listen to the elders, the older guys, and, look at what they're going through. Their seasons, their careers are coming to an ending, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And I think in some instances, you get caught up. You're used to playing in front of 70,000 fans, and you feed into it. You go to restaurants, you don't pay for anything, and you're just treated like a king. But I've always shied away from really feeding wholeheartedly into that, and I've always kept my circle really tight. And people who I felt kept me level-headed and feel free to talk to me and keep me in my place, so to speak. So I don't think I've ever had that issue. Even after I realized I had played my last game, I didn't sit around and think about, getting back in NFL. When I said I was done with it, I was done with it.
Okay.
I got a couple calls, but I was done. And I went immediately to work. Didn't know really what I wanted to do, but just like a lot of other former players, I got into high school teaching and coaching and just seeing if that's what I wanted to do. So that was my first step. So to answer your question, I really never got too high, or so consequently, I never thought I got too low.
That's really impressive, because I can say too wholeheartedly, you and your wife Charese have always been, even keeled, level-headed, never snobby. And, I know you said you wasn't rich and famous, but y'all had it going on.
Yeah,
y'all had it going on, and you know it now.
Yeah, we did, but even in that, we weren't the type of couple that, did a lot of going to events like, back when I was playing, cats be hanging out in Atlanta, New York, Miami, Las Vegas. That wasn't us.
That's right.
We were grounded in our church garden of prayer back in Baltimore. We were committed to doing things in Baltimore. We were trying to start a family, and that's just who we were. And, we, in that vein, we were equally yoked. We just kept grinding, and, we had things, we've experienced things, but, with regards to material things, that's just how we viewed them. They were just material things come and go, we did well, we're doing well, and we think we have greater things before us.
Yeah. And you said something really key, especially to anyone in leadership, is keeping your core tight, keeping people around you who keep you grounded, level-headed, who know the real you and won't let you, escalate beyond that. And that's really, really very important. And I know in the past couple of years too, I've been working on my core because, like you said, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. And, you can find yourself in one place today and realize, okay, the people who stay, in your valleys and your mountaintops are really the right people to have around. Now, here's another silly question before we get into meat and potatoes, because we always have a conversation from time to time about whether leaders are born or made. And even when we see people with high athletic ability, it's so fascinating. It's, is that a natural thing? For example, I know there's some training taking place because I was in the military and I remember my rip days. But when it comes to a sport like football, it really is a high intensity sport. For example, where did you get your your eye and hand coordination, just to naturally catch balls and make moves like that?
See, that's an interesting question. And no one has ever asked me that on a show. I always tell people what it is, but no one has ever asked me. And I used to sit in my bed. This is crazy. And I had to figure out, I was asking myself that same question. But when I was younger, I'd sit in the bed. And if you can imagine laying in the bed, back, your head's against the wall and you're laying down. And I would just throw the ball against the wall and have it come back and I'd catch it. And I just keep doing that. I just keep doing that with a tennis ball. And I honestly think that helped me develop my hand-eye coordination to the point where overhead catches and different catches that seemed, just came natural to me. Mm-hmm. And now you see tennis balls being used a lot to help hand-eye coordination in basketball, football, and in all sports. So that's interestingly, I think that's where it came from.
Wow. And I would have never thought about a tennis ball at all, and because, I saw too, I don't know if this is true. I believe I believe it is to some extent, on a movie where some of the football players take ballet for their. Did you ever take ballet? You wear a tutu?
I never took ballet, but we did a lot of dancing and
okay.
Because back then it was the pop locking and and break dancing, so I did a lot of that. So maybe that had something to do with it, getting open and making guys miss you when when they're trying to tackle you. But, no ballet dancing.
Okay, that's interesting. Now I want to shift to your faith because you and Charese started Calese Inc. And you purchased property in efforts to sort of revitalize and stabilize lower income communities. Was that something you felt called to do, or was that a natural way of giving back? How did your faith, if at all, intertwine with the development of Calese?
I just felt like it was something we were compelled to do. Mm-hmm. Just looking, Baltimore has been so good to me. I'll never be able to give back what it has given me. For all the things you hear about it, that's still home for both of us. And so when I looked at how can we make an impact on our community, I just look at so many African Americans, don't get the opportunity to own a home. And it just seemed like when I looked at the landscape around Baltimore City, the issue was people didn't have a vested interest in where they lived. In other words, they were renters.
Yeah.
And so we thought if we could help people, who couldn't afford homes, we buy the homes, we rehab them, totally gut them, fix them up, rent them to participants in the program. Maybe a year or two, they build up their credit and then they buy it from us. We win. we make a profit and we keep going on. They win because they now own a home. They can build equity. And then they have a vested interest in the community, which we help stabilize. And when you have a vested interest in something, you take care of it. So that was the basic idea of what we wanted to do and continue to do. But it's been a challenge because it's hard to, with so many things going on and we kind of had our hands in a lot of things. We just didn't focus on that. And that's something that needed, a lot of attention and direction and focus. And, while we did it on a small scale, we just needed so much more in it to really be successful the way we envisioned.
Mm-hmm. So what you were doing is a little different from gentrification, from traditional gentrification, where, folks with money come in and revitalize the community and often push the low income residents out and move wealthier ones in. And of course, it causes the property tax to rise as well. So what you were doing is different. I can see from what you were saying, is different from traditional gentrification. But what do you say to critics who may say that your approach doesn't really prepare the owner for financial management? Did you have a lot of foreclosures or those who defaulted? Because, managing money and finances is a mindset as well. And it's something that has to be taught. It's not naturally taught to low-income individuals, or, it's not naturally taught in school often, or even in faith-based industries where they're doing a work for the Lord, but they're learning to manage money and funds. So how was that experience working with low-income individuals and handing them over property? Do you feel that they were prepared for the financial management aspect of it?
Short answer, no. And when I said it needed a lot of focus, and we were doing so many things, we really couldn't focus on helping them the way they needed. And a lot of times, they never went forth with, their part of the plan and actually purchasing from us. They were just content to rent. And it's funny because one of the ladies who we were really close to and still stay in contact with, who is still renting. We're talking about 2003. She's still renting. She's 65, and her rent, she just called me because she wanted to know if I had any places for rent. And she's still renting, but her rent's going up $300. And she said, Calvin, I wish I'd taken your advice and, and bought that home that I rented from you. But I told her it's still not too late. But
right.
No, we didn't have a success, and we didn't have a program in place to educate. To me, it was just so simple. Mm-hmm. We were, totally renovating houses. They were going to have instant equity, and it was just a no-brainer, but everybody didn't see that way. So the education piece was probably the biggest piece, and we just didn't value it. And, so consequently, it was trickles. Mm-hmm. It was trickles. And the ones that did stick with it, because of the equity and the situations they were in, they were successful. Sure. This was long before 2006, 2007, the housing bubble. Mm-hmm. None of the houses that we turned over or flipped, so to speak, without rental tenants went into foreclosure.
Wow. Yeah, it's something that, like you said, has to be addressed, and it always makes you wonder, like you said, if you have the opportunity. I guess it's a mindset, if you're renting for 20 something years, you could have owned a house and had equity and
paid off, living on easy street.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah. But like you said, which is very encouraging, it's never too late. People, I think, sometimes are afraid to start because they have all kinds of reasons. And then they say, well, I've been in this way for so long, but it really is. It's never too late to get going.
Never too late.
Yeah. Now you talk about how Baltimore was good to you. And, you know, Baltimore was a place when I lived there that I liked Baltimore. But, you know, I must say when I first lived in Baltimore, it was the first time that I had seen this heroin so rampant. Like, I didn't know what was going on. It, you know, literally driving to school to teach and seeing people like walking zombies. Mm-hmm. And it took me actually a couple of years to understand, you know, the heroin crisis there. And teaching in Baltimore City, there was lead in the water. There was, you know, it was all kinds of craziness. At the same token, there were some very, very good teachers fighting a good fight every single day. What can you tell me, what made your experience so different? You know, a lot of people don't see the teachers that are fighting the good fight every day and the kids who are overcoming. But what was it about Baltimore that was so good to you? Because you did say that it nurtured you. In what ways?
It was home. It had, you know, Baltimore has, like other, you know, major cities, has great people. Mm-hmm. And we don't do a good enough job of telling the story of the people who have come out of Baltimore and have been successful. And that's another one of my missions, kind of on the side is that to let people know, you know, what has come out of Baltimore. You know, there's been some great things, not just athletics. Athletics is easy, you know, but the first African-American billionaire, Reginald Lewis, went to Dunbar High School.
Wow.
So, people don't know those things.
They know the Wire.
We don't tell a story.
Yeah, because the Wire told a different story. That's what people know about Baltimore. And it was actually very true, I must say. Yes. It was extremely true. But like you said, it's sort of a tale of two cities.
It is. It has some extraordinary places. Mm-hmm. Cities, little pockets of cities, and you see the diversity and the different cultures. It's home. At the end of the day, it's home. And I know there's a lot going on. Charese and I, we try to get back as often as possible. And, like I said, we're still connected to our home church there and, trying to do some things. And, she's got a big project. I don't know if she shared it with you, what she's trying to do with regards to Purdue and trying to reach back there. But, that's home. It's a beautiful place. I just think we don't tell it. We don't tell a story as often as we should.
Yeah. Do you think the current school system is providing what's necessary to get the some of these young Black men into the college university door?
See, we only got 30 minutes left. We don't have enough time for me to tackle that question, but I do believe we could do more. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of leadership, and it gets political, and that's one of the frustrating things that I ran into when I was in the Baltimore City school system. As you run into politics, there's some things that we wanted to do, and we had the money to do it, the finances. Mm-hmm. That you got to go through red tape, but the need is now, and some of that same red tape and the paper pushing, the slow movement of change is still occurring. So I don't think we understand, our young men, because, as an educator, men learn different. Boys learn differently. Looking back on when I was in school, I feel like I was almost in prison, because I wanted to be up, running, walking around, doing stuff. And, I had to sit at a desk and learn, and I had to conform to a certain way that wasn't natural for me. And I was one of the ones that was successful in doing it, but still, I don't think I got the most out of what I could have been in planting the seeds. And another thing is, I don't think everybody wants or is built to go to college. I think so many times, we say you got to go to college. You got to go to college to be successful. No, there's some awesome trades out there. I have friends, electricians, plumbers that do very well. Mason, laborers, so there are trades. And I think we've gotten away from the trades and looking at that as an avenue to wealth building and success. And, if a young man wants to go to college and that's what he wants to do, I'm all behind it. But I don't think everybody needs to be pushed to college. And I don't think, the message needs to be, in order to be successful, you need to go to college.
Yeah. Well, now help me bring some clarity on this. Now, I agree with you in that regard. Although I know for me, I needed to go to college. Mm-hmm. For others, the one thing about Texas is it's a huge blue collar state. And, there are multiple avenues to a great career, like you said, in welding, pipe fitting, rigging. All of these guys are making crazy money, at a very young age and with a great pension, when they retire or when they leave the field. But, help bring some clarity on this. For those who want to go to pro ball, though, do you have to go to college in order to get in the NFL, or is that just a myth that us lay people don't know about?
Technically speaking, you don't have to go to college, but the chances of you getting to be an NFL player without going to college are very minimal. Okay. So I was destined, because of where I wanted to be, to go to college and achieve my dream. Not only did I want to go to college to play football, I had other dreams, because I understood that, after football, mm-hmm. there would be life, so to speak. So I had a dream to go to college. I've always wanted to open my own restaurant. So I wanted to go to a school that had a restaurant hospitality management. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons why I landed at Purdue. And, so that was my desire. But it's very difficult. Traditionally, you got to, you play 3 years in college, then you're eligible for the draft. It's a little bit different for the NBA and really different for baseball players. Mm-hmm. We can get into a whole nother conversation about baseball and soccer and hockey mm-hmm. and other sports who you don't have to go that route to be a professional. Mm-hmm. Which is still mysterious to me. And there's a whole lot. It's a whole nother show, see.
Yeah, okay.
But traditionally you have to go to college, play 3 years before you're eligible for the NFL draft.
So you wanted to major in hospitality and start a restaurant. I know you had Calvin's Cuts, which is a barbershop in Baltimore. Does it still exist?
Calvin Cuts no longer exist.
Okay.
We
was
were
really popular back then.
We were trying to hold on, and I'm going to tell you what, see, managing a barbershop from 650 miles away is extremely tough. Yeah. When you have people who, want to do their own thing and, so Calvin Cuts no longer exist. We had a good run about 18-year run. Yeah. And, we still own the building. We're in the midst of renovating the building and trying to do some things there to set up, for when we do eventually come back. But we did that. It was successful, had a good run. And now we're on to bigger and better things.
So what about the restaurant? Is that still a thing?
Hey, it's still living. The dream is still living.
All right.
and I'm going to say within 2 years, you're going to see the dream come to fruition.
Okay, well, I got to know what's going to be the specialty there. What's going to be the forte? Do you have a name that you can release at this time, an idea?
There is a concept that exists, and it's not my concept. Uh-huh. It is, I'm going to be very vague, okay?
Okay, I get it. I get why too.
It's a national brand.
Okay, all right.
And we want to bring the concept to Baltimore.
Okay.
In a grand fashion.
Yeah. All right, I take it. It sounds good to me. I'm gonna I'm gonna set my clock. I'm gonna set my calendar 2 years from now.
Okay.
2025, I'm coming to dine. Okay, I'm
Come
coming
on.
to dine in 2025.
I
Now,
got you.
I have to ask you. Oh, can I have a free meal? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, that's done. You Dr. Martin.
I'll be all in the kitchen. What y'all cooking back here? Okay, but I really wanted to also ask you. I guess most people don't know that you are a preacher. And, did you immediately respond to the call, or did the Lord have to come tackle you and get you
see,
in the field?
When we first started the show, I asked you, can I call you Cece or Cecilia?
Yes.
Because I don't like titles.
Okay.
So I like to refer to myself as a person who takes biblical teachings
mm-hmm.
and applies them to practical situations.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
But
do you do that in the pulpit? That's my question. Do you ever apply those biblical principles in a pulpit? I'm just curious.
Oh yes.
Okay.
I actually have an engagement. I'll be in Baltimore on November the 20th. To teach biblical principles to practical situations.
I like that. Okay.
I'm a closet comedian, see?
Yeah, you sure know how to shuffle it. I can tell you that much. Now tell me, another thing that I know people want to know about is not just life after football. We talked about that, life in the NFL, but physically, how do you maintain your body? Do you still work out to the same level that you did when you were in the NFL? Is it like being in the military after so long, your check engine lights come on your body? How do you feel physically after being in the NFL? Well,
I look at it like this. It's playing in the NFL, lifting all the weights and all the conditioning and all the things you go through. It's a blessing and a curse. And I say it a curse because when you've done it at that level for so long, you have to keep doing it at some level in order to maintain who you are as a person physically. So I work out 4 to 5 times a week, high intensity, treadmill, walking, jogging. We have a little thing around in the athletic department. We call it the NBA, the New Ball Association, where old guys and former athletes get together and we play basketball from 12 to 1 as often as we can. So you got to keep going. I don't lift weights at the same level I used to, but I still do a lot of resistance, upper body resistance, lower leg resistance, and try to do that 4 or 5 times a week. I try to walk every day, at least for an hour. And I like to eat, see?
Yeah.
So when you like to eat, you got to do those things.
Yeah.
And, I can't eat like the same things I used to. Like, I'm a potato chip after 8 o'clock, potato chip and Pepsi man. I can't do those things like I used to. Been diagnosed pre-diabetic, so my carb intake, the white rice, the potatoes, got to watch it now. So I'm doing a little bit more brown rice, mushrooms, spinach, a lot of fish, so, it's all good. You just got to watch what you do. If you look at me physically, my BMI, all the measurements, you think I wasn't pre-diabetic, but, the doctor, told me, hey, sometimes it's just your genetics and how you're made up. And, both sides, all my aunts and uncles, my father, diabetes, high blood pressure. My mother's side, high blood pressure, thyroid, diabetes. So I have to do those things and be conscious of that, going forward. And I've always been pretty disciplined with regard to eating, but, every now and then, we veer off the path. Monday through Friday is work time, and I often say Saturday and Sundays is my time. So I get to do a lot of things that I don't do in the week during Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Michael Phelps, who's also from Baltimore. He was talking about when he was training for the Olympics and all that. I think he was eating, I don't want to misquote, it sounds insane, but like 20,000 calories.
Oh, yeah. He's just think about it. I mean, in the water, you move or you drown, or you go to the bottom. So he's right. Constant motion. We do a lot of calories in the other sports, but there's times when you can stop and, rest and take a second here. But in the water, you're moving.
I couldn't imagine. Constantly. That's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food.
Because I wondered. Yeah, and I was wondering how is it Brady who's a vegetarian? There's
a lot more athletes today who are vegetarians, vegans, because they understand that the old concept of meat and potatoes doesn't necessarily hold true with regard to strength building and the things you need to do to be successful. So a lot of guys are swinging that way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure about Brady, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it. It seems like you would need some meat and potatoes for football. I don't know.
Old stereotype, see? Old stereotype.
Yeah, listen, in Texas, we kill it, skin it, and eat it.
Woo, that's some good barbecue down there.
I know.
I was down in Austin a couple years ago with the NCAA championship, and there's a couple places down in Austin. I never had any barbecue that good in my life. Yeah.
Texas does meat. Yeah, some good places in Houston too. I'm gonna have to hook you guys up. But I wanted to know too about mentoring, because there's so many African American men young men who need mentors. They always talk about the school to prison pipeline, and we need to break that. And I think we are making good strides. We had a guest on last month who talked about that. Who were your mentors as a young African American man? Who did you look up to? And I want to say too, my sincerest condolences to you. I know you lost your father recently.
Yes.
And my sincerest condolences. And outside of your father, who was one of your, or a couple of your biggest mentors?
Well, one name is going to ring real familiar to you, and that's Coach Phil.
Yes.
Him and his college teammate, who was my high school coach. They played together on those great Morgan State teams in the late 60s. Bob Wade. They were Edwin Johnson, one of my father's good friends who introduced me, who was actually my first football coach. Man, those were my guys. Those were my go-to guys. Before he passed away, I would call Coach Phil and, pick his brain on certain things. And I do the same thing with Coach Wade. Each one of them had a unique perspective and had different expertise with regards to, when I would reach out to them, so those were my guys, and there was, Mr. Shaw growing up. He was a teacher early on when I went to Frankfurt Elementary. He was real influential in my life, a guy I looked up to, African-American teacher at that time were very scarce. Mm-hmm. And I thought he was a real cool guy.
Mm-hmm. And what type of characteristics did you see in them that helped you, I would say, develop into the man that you are today?
They were just strong men. They were good leaders, real positive individuals, taught me just things about life, not just about sports, but just life in general. I looked at how they treated their wives, their relationships with their former players, and how people respected them, revered them, went to them. Coach Phil. Everybody loved Coach Phil.
Yes.
And he was just a remarkable, exceptional person. And
yes,
he's just one of those people that you just sit back. It hadn't hit me really that my father's not with us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been about a year since I've really come to grips with Coach Phelps is gone as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could always pick up the phone, call, and they take your call.
Yeah.
And they give you that little bit that you were looking for, in life. And, so those are my guys.
Yeah. Coach Phil is the reason why I am who I am today. He got me into college because I was so terrible in high school. I think I had a 1.9 GPA and, I was always suspended from high school and, he gave me a different option. He gave me a chance. He talked to the administration at Morgan and was like, she can learn, she can do it. She's just going through a rough life,
But look at you. See, I never knew that you were not a good student because you write exceptional well. You articulate well. But going back to Coach Phil, that's what he did.
Yeah, he did.
People loved him so much that he could walk into the admissions, office and get someone with a 1.9 GPA out of state.
Yep, out of state.
And say, she gonna do it.
Yep.
And then you are so compelled because what he did, in turn, you do what you're doing.
Exactly.
And that's who Coach Phil was. That's who Mr. Wade, is.
Yeah.
That's what my father was in a different vein. He wasn't into education, but, he taught me so many valuable lessons. And I'm so glad, for my wife, my queen, because, so many times you get caught up in life. And, my father had been battling cancer for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And my wife, she lost her mother 4 years ago. And she said, Calvin, you better start going back to Baltimore as often as you can and spending time with your dad. So in the last year and a half, I was there at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, just sitting down, talking with him. And, that's why, right now I have no regrets about the relationship I had with my father. So many times you say, okay, I'm gonna go. And then they're gone. And then you regret not doing that. But I'm so thankful for my wife to have the insight to push me and for me to listen. As men, we sometimes we get stubborn, hard-headed and say, push it off. But I'm so glad I listened to her and got those opportunities to spend time with my father in his last days.
Yeah. And these gentlemen, including your father, you're talking about are, leaving legacies. What legacy do you want to leave with your son, Jonah? What says for you that Calvin John Williams was here? And this is the legacy he left on earth and with his son.
I just, my wish for my son is just be a successful, upstanding citizen. And don't try to be like me. Be who you are. Be successful in doing it. And then at the end of the day, don't do anything to embarrass your family.
That's good stuff. Because there's a lot of kids out here TikToking and
oh my goodness.
On Instagram, and they're doing all kinds of stuff that they're not thinking about will affect them with a job later, in their relationships. So that's very, very good advice. Don't do anything to embarrass your family, because as time goes, the difference, with this internet is actually, like you said, a blessing and a curse, because you messed up, you made a mistake, you get through it and you move on. But now they put your mistakes on loop, you've moved on.
It's where we are today. That's one of the things in my role here at Purdue, as sport administrator. I come in contact with the student athletes every day. And, I say, it's in the cloud. Everything you do with regards to that phone and the internet, it's in the cloud out there somewhere. And, I know you're not thinking 4 or 5 years down the road, but you have to be at this time, because that's what, companies do today. They look at your history, because they don't want anything affiliated with them that's going to embarrass their company and put them in a situation to have you removed, from the company. So we constantly preach that. Tell our athletes to be mindful of what you're doing, help each other when you're in situations on campus. That part of, being an athlete, being a student is your social life. And that's just a part of it. And we're not trying to say don't have a social life, but we want you to be responsible. And, we tell our student athletes, hey, when you see your friend or your buddy or your teammate in a situation at a party or in a situation where it could be detrimental, get them out of there.
Yeah.
Get them out of there, because the last thing you want is to embarrass your family. And, I don't want to call from, our police chief on campus Saturday night, Sunday night, or Monday morning saying this and this has occurred. You're going to have some of those situations, but thankfully we've been doing a good job at Purdue in the athletics department at getting that message out. And, we'll continue to do that and be successful, as well as, again, young people we come in contact with at the church, in schools back in Baltimore when we get the opportunity, because, it's just so hard to reach everybody. There's so much going on. The one-eyed monster, that's the TV. I call it the one-eyed monster. It's just taking over. And everybody think you can be successful in 1 minute. You got housewives of Atlanta, housewives, Orange County, everything. And, they make it
everybody's housewife.
Yeah, everybody want to be successful, and and they think it happens overnight and instant success. And even if you are successful, you haven't. We talked about it earlier with the housing situation. If you're not prepared for success, you're just going to squander the money. So it's a double-edged sword. You want people to be successful, but you got to put in the work. And a lot of times you're not putting in the work, like buying a lottery ticket. You buy it, have success, and then 10 years later, all your wealth is gone because you weren't prepared for it.
Yeah. And you and Charese are doing such an amazing job. And like you said, I'm going to have her on the show when she gets an opportunity, because you guys are building an amazing bridge between Purdue and Morgan State University.
Yes.
People are going to be astonished at the work that's under development, and hopefully will be released soon. So I can't wait for the opportunity to talk to her. Now, before we only have maybe 2 minutes, here's another thing. I know you have your 2 beautiful daughters, and I remember when you were in the NFL, how, your oldest daughter, Sydney, man, she was a beast physically. Carol was a beast. And I think about, and I know Rachel, they're both so beautiful. And, I know you got your shotgun ready.
Oh yeah, I keep it loaded.
Keep it loaded, right? Do you think you'll ever see a starting kicker a female kicker in the NFL?
I think at some point it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. It's just the evolution of sports in general. Mm-hmm. And it'll be exciting to see. But I'm all about it, man. I'm all about inclusivity and, giving people opportunities, you've seen it at Division III level in the NCAA. And that's what the NCAA model is about, giving people opportunities. Mm-hmm. However you look, Title IX, affords that opportunity. But just the NCAA model, so we got to figure out across all landscapes how to be inclusive with everyone. Right. And because that's the NCAA model at the end of the day.
I saw a female football team. Oh gosh, it was probably a year ago, but they were professionals. And I was like, oh my gosh, these women are serious, and they were fit. And I forget the young lady's name, but it's an African-American woman. I think she has a rather large endorsement. I think there's a lot happening. It's just that the NFL is so big. Yes. We don't see the other things that are developing behind the scenes, but it really is sort of intriguing to keep an eye on and watch.
Yeah, they have some leagues out there. Most of them are semi-pro. But women are getting after it,
Yeah.
And, I got an opportunity. At one time, they had a team in Baltimore. I'd go and watch them every now and then, but that team dissolved. I just have to say the only sport I don't like watching women compete in is that MMA. I don't like watching MMA.
I don't either. I don't like it for the men.
I just don't like the women. And
First of all, they're about to cut us off, but
Okay.
I don't like it for the men. It's too much in my heart. But anyway, so we gotta go. I'm gonna have you back, you and Charese back. Thank you so much. And I gotta give a shout out to my brother, the other Calvin Simmons, whose birthday is today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Calvin Jr.
Yeah, Calvin Jr. So love you guys so much. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate you. Be blessed.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being a team player.